Victoria. What's our topic for the show today?
Today we'll be talking about the cultural differences that began in the 1960s.
The 60s were said to have brought a revolution to the Americas.
That had influence from the politics to music.
But Victoria, why was the 60s a decade that everything changed?
Well, because the 40s were the years of World War II, and the 50s people were still suffering from the economic damages. The 60s seemed to be the first year people revived from the economic problems.
Oh, and especially the people in England, who started to have new production techniques. With more time and higher paying wages, the people began to spend more time on different activities they loved to do.
Exactly. They know it was no longer necessary to work long hours, and the income of people was increasing.
So people began to do things they enjoyed.
Yeah, and since people could afford it, the demand of entertainment was high.
How were the 60s in the United States, Victoria?
The 60s was a time where parents didn't understand their children. Parents and children were like two different species.
Oh, that's the hippie movement, right?
Yeah, the youth rebelled against their parents.
The hippies brought a challenge to the society of that time.
The teenagers in Great Britain were just as rebellious as those in America.
One of the most important changes in society was pop.
Yeah, exactly. Pop culture became one of the most commercialized fields in entertainment.
The most important part about the pop culture could have been said to be the music.
Because music became the source of expressing yourself, right?
Yeah, the music that emerged in the 60s had a message. Each song meant something.
The songs weren't just catchy tunes. They had meaning behind them.
As we know, one of the most famous bands that had the most influence on American culture would have to be the Beatles.
So, to further explain what today is called the British Invasion.
Everyone welcome Paul McCartney from the Beatles.
Hi. Welcome, Paul. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
So tell us about the Beatles, like a little background information.
Well, it all started in 1957 when a friend of mine introduced me to John Lennon, and his band, Quarrymen, was actually playing in some church, and he liked my talent, so he asked me to join the band, which I did. And the band started going through some changes. New members were added. Actually, my good friend George Harrison, I introduced him to John Lennon, and he was introduced into the band, and then other changes were like name changes, and we finally stuck with the Beatles after numerous tries.
Well, that's really interesting. Have you ever wondered why you guys were the ones to make such an impact on the world?
Well, there were a lot of bands trying to make it big. I guess we were just the lucky ones.
But I wouldn't base it on luck. You guys really were talented, and you did change the world.
So, was your parents supporting?
Well, back then the telly was starting to become very popular. So yeah, our parents were very important.
It was the hair, wasn't it?
Yeah, the hair was part of it. I guess we needed something to put together with our name.
But was it as important as a good performance?
Well, the performance actually brought the fans and audiences in, so no.
Especially a young audience, right?
So, you guys not only had a good appearance, you had a good personality and character.
That's right. They had the whole rebel against the adult look,
Exactly.
which was what the 60s were known for.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how did your stardom begin?
Well, we started in Liverpool, England. In about 2 years, we were the most popular band in England at the time.
Well, how did you become so well known?
Well, after that, we started touring all over Europe and places like Germany and Sweden.
What motivated you guys to even come to the United States?
Well, a representative from the Ed Sullivan Show contacted us and told us they wanted to interview us in the show. And they took us to the Americas, and as we landed in the JFK airport, we were surprised by the amount of people that were actually waiting for us there. We had no idea that we were so popular. And I believe some news people wanted to interview us.
So how do you feel that you were so popular that you basically made people go crazy?
Well, me and the boys loved it. It was a marvelous experience.
This must have been so incredibly amazing, considering you were the very first band to achieve international success.
So, was that interview your first televised event in America?
It wasn't supposed to be. The first time we were supposed to be on American television was at a Sullivan Show, but the interview was televised before then, so I guess, yeah, it was.
Wow. So what would you say your musical style was?
Well, we were originally rock and roll, but when we came to the Americas, we were influenced by other styles of music.
So nowadays, people would say that you were influenced by American music?
Yeah, especially George Harrison. He was quite fond of the American rockabilly.
So your distinctive harmony came from Motown?
Yeah, it came from Motown in many different styles.
It is also recalled that as your sounds and genres were changing, So was your appearance, is this right?
We first started with the suits and the bowl cuts and Cuban heels, and then we moved on to the more boisterous psychedelic chic look.
The fact that many artists such as Elton John, Pink Floyd, and Ozzy Osbourne have clearly stated that the Beatles were a huge influence on their music shows that for the years to come and decades to come, the British knowledge had changed the Americas.
Before the Beatles, rarely any British bands made it to the US.
After the Beatle invasion, many British artists flourished in the United States.
Wasn't that also known as the British invasion?
Yeah, Victoria, you're right, it was. The British group introduced many new things that would have an impact on the life of the United States in the future.
So the Beatles were basically the leaders of the British invasion?
Yep, the Beatles were followed by the Rolling Stones, the Animals, the Dave Clark Five, and many others.
As well as the music, their lives have not been forgotten. Many TV shows, even The Simpsons, have based episodes on their lives.
The Beatlemania created music in a style that the youth could relate to. They related to it because of the rebellious style of the time.
The Beatles responded to the rebellion by creating revolutionary music. They even had a song called Revolution.
The 60s were a time of rebellion for the youth.
The Beatles were just some guys who provoked annoying parents by wearing hairstyles and clothing they didn't approve of. The youth at the time would play loud, noisy music.
Along with their rebellious influence, they also had some spiritual influence, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. They were probably the most important trendsetters of the 60s.
Another example of this trendsetting was how they moved the hippie movement around the world, not just in the United States.
Their music and lyrics captured the spirit of the 60s. It created new ideas and approaches to different things.
The music and the appearance of the Beatles is still seen in our society today.
Their legacy is mostly seen in their music, which is still heard by many people.
A lot of musicians still find inspirations in their music to this day.
It created a cultural phenomenon and opened doors for many artists to come.
Because of them, many British artists are really well known in the United States.
The Beatles have probably been one of the most influential bands of all time.
That's right, Victoria. Well, actually that's all the time we have on Behind the Artist.
Bye everyone. Thank you for watching.
Goodbye, America.